Philip, thank you for joining us. I know it's been a busy time for everybody, and I guess it's really about to get busy for you. Congratulations on the new job and everything. Um, and in reading your bio, your resume, you've got major connections here in the Charlotte area in North Carolina. Uh, what does it mean to you to come back to the Tar Heel State?
Yeah, first off, Herb, thanks for making time for me. You know what? In one sense, I've never been away. So I've lived the last 4.5 years of my life on airplanes and in hotels and in different parts of the world. My family have always remained here in Charlotte. So, I really value my family. And, we've kind of come to the agreement that if someone has to, commute and someone has to, step away from Charlotte to do their job, it'll be me rather than move my whole family. So my family's always been here, but to come back here, we've always lived here. We've never lived anywhere else in the United States. I said this yesterday in a press conference, to go from working with grassroots youth players to elite college players on the men's and women's side to men's professionals, and now to kind of get the last piece of the puzzle in being fortunate enough to become the head coach of Carolina USL Super League team is pretty cool. So I'm really happy. I've been smiling for a couple of weeks now, and it's just getting ready to get started, really.
And so, Philip, I just wanted to ask you, a lot of teams, when they start up with, with franchises, coaches, the first coach is really remembered, throughout the team's history. So what does it mean for you to be the first coach of the Super League Carolina?
I'm extremely excited. I'm really proud. Again, all of these press conferences and all of these interviews are coming together where someone asked me a similar question, and I said, I feel like this has been a long time coming in Charlotte. There's no secret that I had a ton of different opportunities in different leagues, NWSL mainly, or the opportunity to stay with the US Women's National Team. But this city has just been ready for this team and this opportunity. So, there's an immense amount of pride from my standpoint in getting this opportunity, but also really happy for the city of Charlotte and the surrounding areas on the western side of the state. I think it's long overdue. And, I think you look at just in my time in Charlotte, you look at the growth and, the other major league sports teams. Now we finally are able to put a women's professional sports team in Charlotte, not just a women's professional soccer team, but a women's professional sports team. I think that's huge for the community. I think it's huge for this side of the state. So really proud, really excited. Can't wait to get going.
Now, you mentioned that it's huge to have women's professional sports here. That hasn't happened since the Charlotte Sting packed up in the early part of the 2000s. Talk a little bit about the impact of women's sports, and obviously working with the U.S. national team. That's as high as the shelf gets in this country. Talk a little bit about women's sports and why it's so important to have that presence in this market.
I think of just the growth over the last few years. Just the way the culture, the way sports are looked at and viewed, in the exposure to different kinds of sports, regardless of the gender. Right now, you look at women's sports in particular, you look at the growth really underpinned probably by WNBA and NWSL. I feel like the times I feel like the growth is there. I feel like the appetite is there. But I feel like the exposure to these sports has been lacking, right? I think that the quality has always been there, the expertise has always been there, but I feel now that broadcasters are starting to see and understand and realize the value of women's sports. They're starting to look at the market and what that means for not just now, today, but the long term. I think this is just the starting point, right? I think we've seen over the last decade, how women's sports have just caught fire. And, you referenced the US Women's National Team. There's no bigger platform in world sports for women. And you look the message that comes out of the US women's national team and how powerful these players are, not just in the game and in the sport, but in people's lives and in influencing the way society works. So I've been really blessed and fortunate to have a front row seat and a little look behind the curtain of some of those things. But I just think it's about time that, you know, cities like Charlotte embrace women's sports again. I think now the broadcasters are getting on board. I feel like this is going to be an excellent period and the continued growth of women's sports.
Yeah, and so obviously you have a diverse background, coaching not just at the professional level but also at the collegiate level. So how have all these experiences really shaped your coaching style? And so like how would you describe yourself as a coach? And what kind of coach is Super League Carolina getting?
Yeah, Cameron, I wish I had a really great answer for you that was game changing, but I look at it as if I were in a different industry, if I were in a different sport, if I was in the business world, I believe in people. I believe in connecting with people. I believe in improving as an individual myself, and I believe that there's no limit to how we can improve people, and that speaks to an organization, not just a playing staff or a coaching staff. We talk about marketing departments and ticket departments and whatever it is that I feel like I believe in people. I believe in connecting with people. I want to help people believe that there's more in themselves than sometimes they believe. So for me, it's about connection. It's about collaboration. And we are in the people business, right? We have to make people believe. We have to improve people. We have to at times hold people accountable, but we're in the people business. And how that's impacted my style is, I think that when you look at the game, I've said this a few times over the last few days, is, I zoom out a little bit, especially now. I don't think we have to be 100% detail oriented right now. I don't think we have to give the secrets away right now. But when I zoom out, I think, okay, I want to make sure that any team I coach is entertaining. I want to make sure any team I coach has the ball. I want to make sure any team I coach creates chances. And, connecting to this community, Karen, is like, I want to make sure our fans have fun. I want to make sure our fans can identify with, they can connect our team to the city of Charlotte and the surrounding communities, which is progressive, fun, but hardworking, rooted here in the Southeast United States. And we have to kind of match that DNA. So, the last thing I think about my time as a player, and I don't want to train for 5 days and not go and have fun and not play entertaining soccer. And so you think about sending the crowd home happy. You think about winning championships. You think about connecting with people. I don't think there's many coaches that are going to say a ton of different things, but I truly believe that, if you connect with your people, again, fans, people in the organization, players, of course, coaching staff, feel like you get the best out of everyone.
You have a tall task ahead of you, I guess, when you're talking about you've joined programs that were already in progress, that were already mature. You're working with a startup now. Is that something that you've given some thought to in terms of how do you approach the job, understanding that you're starting from scratch as opposed to the U.S. national team that is already there, it's been around for a while, collegiate programs that have already been around?
Yeah, I don't know when the learning period will stop. Every question I ask generates 6 more questions. And every one of those 6 questions generates 6 more. So the startup piece is exciting. Jim mentioned yesterday in a press conference, there's a lot of work to do. We're starting with a blank piece of paper. I've said before, sometimes when someone like me comes along and a new coach rolls into town, it's because somebody hasn't done a good job or someone's really done a bad job with the soccer or the style of play or the culture within an organization. But we have this blank sheet of paper. And I'm thankful to looking at really the last 25 years of women's professional soccer in this country, where we are at a different starting line to the teams were 20 years ago. And we're at a different starting line to where teams were in 2014 when NWSL rolled in and kicked off. So I get to look at what others have done, where others have been successful, where others have failed. But the blank sheet of paper, to be honest, it was exciting, right? Like, we don't have to fix anybody else's issues. We don't have to fix anybody else's bad culture. We get to design it. We get to decide it. We get to decide who's in the building and who's not. We get to connect with, again, I'm big on this, our community, our fan base, and say, what should a team reflect in this community? How should it look? How does that resonate with you guys? So I think the blank piece of paper is exciting. It's fun. It's certainly going to provide its challenges. It's certainly going to be a lot of hard work. There are some pieces of infrastructure that are there. One of these things that new franchises look at is, a coach gets announced, a franchise gets announced, and then it's, okay, stadium plans. Where are we going to play? How are we going to do this? Let's see if we can energize the city to build. We have a perfect stadium. We have one of the best stadiums in the country to start out. So one of the biggest pieces of the puzzle in a new franchise is, okay, stadium infrastructure in place. Next comes a head coach and a coaching staff, then the playing staff. So the biggest hurdle is already there for us. So I'm pretty optimistic. We're excited. Blank piece of paper is fun, but a ton of work to come.
And it's kind of a piggyback off that question, in sports, adversity is going to, come about. And so in your past experiences, how do you take adversity and internalize that and, try to make the best out of it?
Yeah, I'm going to piggyback off one answers. I think I don't think when don't think if, it's when adversity hits. First year franchise, any sport, you guys know that. Is I go back to one of my core pillars, one of my core philosophies is I have to be around good people. I have to go to lengths to get to know the people that are in the organization, the people that support the organization, because when times hit that are tough, when adversity hits, then you got to demand, you got to hold on, and you got to buckle down a little bit, and you got to push sometimes even harder. And I think sometimes those relationships, that connectivity, that belief in people, and I mean the fans, I mean ownership, I mean everyone in the building, not just the playing staff. When times like that hit, you have to rely on those around you, and it's only as strong as those relationships you've formed. So that's why one of those pillars, and it sounds very nice, but I try and practice in my personal life, is I have to look at human beings and individuals first, and everything else is second. And I think when you can fall back and rely on that stuff in times of crisis, then you're going to be okay. I think when you don't have those relationships, and all of a sudden now people change when things get tough, and there's no foundation to demand from, then I think that's when people get in trouble.
You have articulated the blank sheet of paper as a franchise. There's also a blank sheet of paper for this league. There's already an established women's professional league in the NWSL, and the cynic would say, there's already one that's making its way through the sports landscape. Is there enough room for two? And how does that second league get to where it needs to go in fairly short order? Or is it going to take a long haul?
Well, there is enough for two. No question. I think when we look at this country and we compare it to the size of, the other major European powers, right? So Spain, England, Germany, France, obviously we have currently 12, growing to 14 teams next year. Based on the amount of people that play the game in this country, the amount of female soccer players we have in this country, the size of this country, then just common sense says there's enough room. The next question comes down to now, okay, is the quality there? I look at the top leagues around the world. There's 130 something American players playing in top leagues around the world, not including NWSL. So you look at those players that are scattered around the world. You look at players within the league in NWSL. You look at some of the foreign players that are really interested in coming to the United States to play in, the best women's sports environment in the world. I think the simple answer is, yeah, there is enough. I think one of the advantages of USL Super League here is that there's a couple of pieces that stick out to me straight off the bat. Obviously, we're in August through May season, which is very different to the MLS and NWSL model. They are February through November. obviously for winter season and staying out of certain markets in that time of year. But to be at the same cadence as the rest of the world really it opens up access to a different players, right? We're in line with all the rest of the contracts in the world. So when one person's contract ends in May in Europe, well, they're going to roll straight into our season in August, like the rest of everyone else in the world does. It's a little more difficult sometimes coming into our league own collective bargaining situation in NWSL. Not impossible, we see it all the time, but a little more challenging from a timing standpoint. The other piece that USL offers that is probably the best kept secret, the ability for us to use pre-college high potential young players. We see it a lot on the men's side. We've seen it here in Charlotte with Charlotte Independence. We've seen Louisville FC, sell players for 7 figures. Players that they were able to bring from their own youth academy through based on USL rules. So, we look at the high potential players here in Charlotte. We look at the high potential players here in our region in the Southeast United States. It's a hotbed. It has been for decades. And now we have the ability to go into our community, let's just say within 2 hours of Charlotte, and say the highest potential young pre-college players, if you want to kind of have that discussion about potentially missing college, foregoing college soccer at least, to become a professional and get your start here in Charlotte, we can do that now. And again, all of these answers will be connected to our community and our fan base and our catchment area is, we now have the ability to offer that to young players in the Charlotte region. It's never been done before. We have players that we're going to attempt to bring back to Charlotte who are from the city, who are from the area and region, who have had successful professional careers outside of this city and outside of this state, and in a few cases in Europe and all over the world, because this opportunity didn't exist. But now USL opens a lot of these doors to be in the same cadence as the rest of the world from a season standpoint, but also open the doors to Charlotte's highest potential young players, which is an area that we'll look at pretty closely.
And in terms of putting together a team, how does that work? Will there be, I guess, because everybody in Super League will be starting from scratch, if there is no expansion draft. So how does that look? Is that more like free agency where everybody can sign whatever types of players they want to have, or is there a common draft that will also be included in that?
No, it's going to be a combination of things. So I would say the masses will use the free agency model, which is players that are at the end of a contract. May the best club win. But we're also in a position where we can buy and sell players, which is a little different from some of the models currently used in NWSL. So the ability to buy and sell and trade players like the rest of the world is there. The free agency model is there. We will look in 3 or 4 different buckets here. We'll look at the current crop of American players, whether they're playing domestically or internationally. We're going to have a certain amount of international roster spots. We'll look at some emerging markets for sure. We'll bring in a little experience quality, but we'll also look at some emerging markets in terms of saying, okay, where are the most exciting players in the world? And some of these markets are blowing up. That's kind of where we start. We'll also look at the prospective professional. So the same route as everyone else, those players that are finishing up in college, those players that are kind of entering drafts or deciding is NWSL the right path for them, is Super League the right path for them. So those prospective professionals, and like I said, there'll be another bucket of young professionals. So I would say there'll be a lot of free agents that are very interested in this league, not just this club, but all USL Super League clubs. There is no salary cap, which is another differentiating factor from NWSL. So clubs are going to choose to be aggressive. Clubs are going to choose to be conservative, and each has got their own model. We want to make sure that we've got exciting players that our fans want to see. But I think there'll be a lot of different mechanisms to find these players.
And obviously, you're looking for players who will fit in terms of the style of soccer that you want to play. Will that be something that you're looking for players who can get the ball into the net? Will it be more of a tactical type of team? What type of player is going to be the best fit for the style?
if you can help me out by finding someone that can put the ball in the net a couple of times a game, if you have any names or numbers, let me know. I think everyone wants that same phone number and same agent. I think it's balance, right? I think that we're in the United States. We play in a league that is going to be, it's going to showcase all the best attributes of the American player, right? Power, pace, grit, determination, right? All those things that are in the DNA of our nation are going to be, they're on show in every professional sport we play in this country. Now it's a case of saying, okay, we need to balance a roster which is based on age, experience. We need certain types of players for certain types of opponents. We understand we're going to play against some athletic transitional opponents, so we have to be able to not only deal with that, but we have to be able to exploit areas of the field that they sometimes leave for us. So I think it's about balance. I think if the old adage that we don't just need performers, but we need roadies to move the equipment for them too, right? And I think that you've got to have people that are the star of the show and people that can put the ball in the back of the net and people that can carry a team, but we also need people that can do the dirty work and roll their sleeves up, no different to any sport. So we got to make sure we don't have a team full of roadies that are moving equipment, and we got to make sure we don't have a team full of front and center singers that are getting all the headlines. We've got to get a balance.
Yeah, need those grunts.
Yeah, we do.
Okay. All right. Well, I do appreciate you taking the time to talk to us today, Philip. And again, congratulations on the new gig and coming home permanently. fewer travel miles.
I am excited about that. I'll certainly still be traveling, but not nearly as much. And honestly, you guys, I appreciate what you guys do. I've made a point of speaking to everyone, and I'll continue to speak to everyone. And for me, is that you guys do such a good job in promoting the sport. Whatever we can do for you, and as much access and information as we can give to you guys, please just let us know. This has been great, and I appreciate you guys making the time.
Oh, thank you. Sir. We will be on your doorstep leading up to August. Count on that.
Please be.